One of the things that you hinted at a little bit earlier, Kurt, is this idea of like in this opening passage of like Bart Ehrman's book, where he talks about like we don't have the original autographs, but then we have questions about like what is like the earliest available like text or form of like the Gospels and the New Testament that we have written. So can you just talk a little bit about like Dr. Ehrman's view on this and like what you think of his view?
Sure. So in misquoting Jesus, Ehrman defends the notion that it's worth exploring to attempt to try to find the original document, right? Or at least the wording of the original document, even. That we can have epistemic access to what the originals said. He totally defends this view. He says the view that says we can't even access the original language is radical and should be dismissed. That's what he says in his book. And then in my series, as I was reading and I was listening to debates that he did, there was a debate he did with Dan Wallace. This would have been 7 years after the book came out, depending upon when it was. It could have been early 2013. So maybe, yeah, 8 years after the book came out. He takes a different position. He says he changes his mind and that now we can't speak meaningfully anymore about the original. Now, I'm putting this in quotes because it's very technical. He defends instead what he calls the earliest available form of the text. And he gives a number of reasons for why he now embraces this position. And I'll give just one. This is the example I gave in the video series. 2 Corinthians, the book, could be an amalgamation, a collection of multiple letters of Paul. It could be 2 letters that were put together. It could be as most as 5 letters that come together. And if that's the case, then we can't speak meaningfully of the original, right? There is no original 2 Corinthians written by Paul. Well, as I argued in my video series, and this is one of the points where I disagreed with Ehrman within this series, it's that, well, there is an original 2 Corinthians that was canonized. There was some scribe, let's grant that it's 2 letters that were edited together. There's some scribe that put together those 2 letters, and voila, there is 2 Corinthians. That's the original, right? So I still think that we can have access to the originals. And I think his shift on his view is highly technical. And frankly, I don't think it leads to a substantial difference, a meaningful difference. So if he just wants to change the semantics of it, okay, but I really don't think there's a meaningful difference there. And I'd love to, I haven't had a chance to talk with him, but I'd love to get his feedback and maybe see what he thinks of my response to his point in that debate. So that's, when we talk about the original and the earliest available form, that's what he talks about. He shifts his view, and I think it's more a point of technicality than anything that we should really be worried about.